Quick video on wintertime fermentations. As you can see, this is kicking off pretty good. It's got a nice cap on it. You can see it. It's not roiling. Yesterday and the day before, this thing was like, it was almost boiling. You know what I mean? There was so much activity. The fermentation is probably starting to slow down a little bit, but it's still kicking. It's still kicking pretty good. But as you can see, my girl likes to keep the temperature down. She's got all electric baseboard heating, so it gets very expensive to heat up this place. So the ambient temperature taken by the sensor is at 61. The probe is saying 58, so it's pretty cool in here. You know what I mean? It's around 60 degrees. And that becomes a real problem when you're trying to keep your ferment going. So obviously, I think I've talked about it before in some of my videos. I just keep this bag over, keep it taped down on the bucket. You know what I mean? Just so nothing falls or crawls into it. But what I'll do during the winter is I have a dual zone electric blanket. I'll straighten this out a little bit better after I quit filming. It's got two entries. You can see one goes in there, and the other one is probably back here somewhere, back behind. So it's, a dual zone. I don't know if this is a king size or a queen size, and it's obviously got two controllers to control the temperature of this. And this is what I'll use on the big bucket during the winter time. So obviously at a 60 degree, 61 degree ambient temperature in this kitchen, you're not going to get a fermentation out of it. Now, most of the time, I like to use bands, but the bands are only big enough to go around, my 8-gallon buckets at the most. They're probably made for 5-gallon buckets, but they'll wrap around my 8-gallon bucket. You plug them in, and that little heated rubber band that goes around your bucket will keep your bucket warm enough. Obviously, with a 35, 40-gallon trash can, they don't fit, and they probably wouldn't do a very good job. They probably make some kind of wraparound unit that will go around this bucket, plug it in, and it'll keep it warm. Unfortunately, I don't have one. So maybe I'll look into it in the future, but this works fine. You know what I mean? I bought this a few years ago, back when I was making my mashes in 8-gallon buckets. I'd make 3 or 4 mashes, make them one at a time. Eventually, I've got 3 or 4 mashes, buckets fermenting. I would drape this thing over the top of them, the same way it is now, and it would keep all those buckets warm enough to ferment. Now, when I towards the end of using the smaller buckets for fermentation, I had 4 of those, bands that wrap around the bucket, so I had enough to individually wrap each bucket in those bands, and those bands work great. I show them in one of my videos. Let me see if I can't quickly. They're probably somewhere here in the back room. Oh, good Lord. Where is all this stuff? Is it in here? Somewhere in here. Here we go. All right. Sorry for the bad camera work, but I wanted to give you guys an idea. And obviously, I just do one-take videos. I don't do any kind of editing. I'm not into all that shit. So here is, that's what the rubber bands look like that wrap around a bucket. Obviously, you tighten it up. You plug it in. It's got a plug on it, obviously. And you pull it tight around your bucket, and it stays wrapped around your bucket, keeps it warm. You get a solid ferment. As you can tell by the size of that, it's not nearly large enough to wrap around this big of a trash can. So just a little quick video on, especially here in the Northeast, it gets cold. It's been in the low 30s for the past, 4 or 5 days. We had a couple days where it got up towards 50 something at the end of last week, but now it's in the 30s. It's probably going to stay here. Might get some good days here or there like every other place in America, but it's going to stay at freezing and go lower. Just a quick video on things you can do in the cold weather to make sure your ferments don't stall, to make sure that your yeast keeps popping. You get below a certain temperature, that yeast is not going to want to do its business. It's not going to die. It's going to go dormant, go sleepy time, and it's going to want a proper temperature to keep it up. I should have stuck the probe in the mash just to see what temperature the mash was, but you can tell it's popping. It's still fermenting. It's probably got a few more days until it's totally fermented out. And hopefully, the cooler weather will even help all that stuff drop out of suspension and clear the liquid to get ready to strain it into buckets and get ready to distill it. So if you're having problems with stall fermentations in the winter, these are a couple ideas of what you can do. I also have fish heaters that you can get at Walmart, like fish tank heaters. They look like little glass torpedoes. You can plug it in, drop it in. I would suspend it, not at the bottom. Don't get it into the stuff, because I'm pretty sure those fish tank heaters, if they get too much crap on them or around them, they will scorch some of those grains in there and possibly cause a problem. So I much prefer a method like this, a heating source that is exterior to the vessel you're mashing in, rather than those fish tank heaters that you actually have to drop in and suspend in the liquid to keep it up to temperature. But those will work also. I mean, they have worked, especially when I used to strain my mashes and not ferment on grain. I would strain them out and then ferment just the liquid itself. They were a great option back then, but now, with a vessel this size, I'm not going to strain my mashes before fermentation. And in fact, fermenting on grain is probably good. You probably get a little bit more, je ne sais quoi out of it. I don't even know what you call it or what the technical terms of it are. But here you go. Here's some ideas for winter warming your mashes. Keep mashing through the cold weather so you can keep distilling through the cold weather, people. All right? You guys enjoy your week. Talk to you guys soon. Take care.